letters.
There's no need to...
Yeah, live. Hi, guys.
Connect ID.
Energy suppliers don't want you to know about this trick to warm up houses for practically zero cost. This brilliant invention was created by two Australian engineers from one of the largest supply companies in the country. They were tired of seeing people paying insane.
Get deported. I mean, that's unimaginable for Americans.
This is so dramatic. And Pastor, you talk about from a prophetic point of view. I'm just talking about it more of just a secular point of view. The competing interests and the food insecurities that we have, it's hard to fathom it and hard to describe, especially in a country that's been so blessed. It's time to take some steps and take heed of this and listen to Pastor. I mean, this is serious, ladies and gentlemen. This is serious. We're in jeopardy.
So, a friend from New Manna, Daniel from New Manna, and I just want to welcome
Hey, Diane, good to see
the
you.
Discover Church family and the channel. And I'm just going to pick your brain a little bit on what's going on. So, first
Hey,
of all,
Trace, good to see you.
Seen you and talked to you since Trump won. So, are you happy he won?
Of course. So I think it's answered a lot of people's prayers. I think the alternative was just unacceptable, and you can see a way forward in this country where truth, justice, success, God matters. Plain and simple.
Trump is trying to bring peace to the Middle East, peace with Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, there's some people who don't like that. Where do you think this is heading?
Europe, at least their leaders, don't seem to want peace. So what does that mean? So you have this globalist idea and globalist agenda in complete contradiction to definitely the will of the American people, seemingly the Ukrainian and Russian people, and the European people that they supposedly serve. So you're faced with these juxtaposition of these competing agendas, and you're seeing Zelensky coming out literally attacking Trump verbally, trying to...
That's why Zelensky didn't want peace a month ago, because he knew he had them drones lined up.
provoke. You see bombing in Russia. I mean, this is a powder keg. There are people, globalist interests, that want peace. They want Russia weakened, and they thought over the last 3 years that they could weaken Russia. They could have sanctions to hurt them economically, and really it didn't. For America, America first, we want to be friendly and have a good, solid relationship with proper boundaries with Russia. We do not want to push them to China, and we want peace between Russia and Ukraine in this area to be the support.
Someone said yesterday the warships from China are heading to America. I don't think it was you, Di, but it was on YouTube somewhere.
And the breadbasket to Europe that's been for decades.
Yeah, I think our audience are going to be interested in how does this war affect us in the United States. Morally, I think, we should be aligned to a Christian nation. A friend of mine was just invited by the government of Russia. They're inviting Christians over there to come and see what's changed. And he came back and he told me, he says, it's like revival over there. There's a revival in the church. Of course, it's the Russian church. And, they've got a new visa where they want people to come over who are fleeing woke countries. Like they're going to be a place of refuge for people who are fed up with being censored and controlled and told that they have to, mentally accept all of these very anti-Christ ideas. So, but
Diane, I saw that one about Josh Rogan just before I went live.
For our audience here and around the world, I think that the stakes are high in terms of what's coming next prophetically. There's going to be some kind of engineered global famine, and we're wondering, how does this play out? So you say that Russia has a big role, is it, in supplying food to the world?
Ukraine and Russia is and has been called the breadbasket of Europe. If Kansas or the middle America is the...
I knew that about Ukraine. I didn't know that about Russia, though.
breadbasket of America. Ukraine and Russia is literally the breadbasket of Europe. And so what this war has done, and the economic sanctions, is really cut down on energy supply, food supply. Prices have risen. You can, if you know anything about Europe, you can tell their quality of life has gone down significantly because of this, even though their countries aren't directly involved. And it's the same thing us on a global scale, and it has a trickle-down effect. So if Europe can't get the food that they're used to getting, the wheat especially, from this area, the Ukraine-Russia area, where are they going to get it from?
Yeah.
Are they not getting it? Are they coming to America? Well, America isn't self-sufficient in food anymore, and we import, kind of like energy. Trump wants to change this. Very important. I'm sure we can address that. But to this point, the supply chain, the flow of goods back and forth, this is vital to stabilize Europe and the world and your grocery shelves, whether we realize it or not.
Well, you're in the food industry. You're helping Christians and others prep through New Manna. Very happy to be partners with you in that, because we take prophecy seriously. We're not.
Hey guys, yesterday Gabe went to the shops, and she said the shops were a little bit empty, which was unusual.
Just studying something theoretical. We're excited that we're living in the time where we can see prophecy fulfilled and we can be ready for it.
100%.
You predicted, let's go back in time a little bit. Last time you were here, you really predicted, the water shortage in California, in Idaho is another issue. And I just want to go and show our audience what's happened.
President Trump is 100% correct on the water. I see the journalists mocking him when he talks about the giant faucet that can control the water. Let me just lay it out. Most of the water for California comes from the north. The Sierra Nevada mountains, the snowpack that melts, collects in reservoirs. There are two channels that send it down to where the people mostly live in Southern California. One, the Delta Mendota Canal, that is federal. The California Aqueduct, the other one, that is state-owned and run. When he was president last time, President Trump ordered more water to be sent through the federal system. And yes, there are two giant pumping stations near the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta, close to where I am, that control the water flow. President Trump increased the federal supply. The California supply, in retaliation, was reduced in order to send more water into the Delta. And yes, it was to protect the Delta smelt, which, by the way, practically was extinct in 2020, has barely been revived by scientists at UC Davis. He is correct about this, and it's high time California had common sense policies. We have all the water we could possibly want. It's just not collected and stored and sent to the right places.
This is a real man-made, man-engineered water shortage. The Bible predicts water shortage and food shortage. And people may not realize this. So Trump opened the pipe federally, the federal pipe. So Newsom retaliates by restricting the state pipe. I mean, what excuse, what justification is there for this when hundreds, maybe thousands of homes were burned down through this tragic fire?
Wow.
And you see this going on all over the states, right? Engineered water shortage, which will then be engineered food shortage. What's your comment on this?
Diane, I always say it when you post something about floods, as in the days of Noah. I always say that.
This is one of the most important news stories in the world, especially if you're talking about the United States. We talked about the different agendas. And for years, we heard about environmental issues. Steve Hilton mentioned the Delta, the smelt. It's a little fish. It's not even native to the area. That's one thing that's crazy about it. It's not even native to the area. I don't know if people know that. But basically, on the back of that little fish that, like he said, is struggling, they said, well, because of this little fish, we got to cut off some of the most rich farmland in the world. We need to cut the water down to the population centers, LA, where this fire was, or all around there. And all this in the name of protecting a fish that's not even native. And
look at that. That looks apocalyptic, doesn't it?
And what does it even do? I would like to give me some reason. I mean, that's the excuse. What Donald Trump, more than anything, has done is shown a juxtaposition of opinion, of ideology that we thought was almost lost in this country. We've been so used to politicians. This is just status quo that, well, I guess the water's got to get shut off because, whatever reason. He showed, no, well, there's plenty of water and I'll pump it down there. And they said, no, well, wait a minute, we can't. It forces us to see the different agendas, the limiting of resources. God gives us everything. The water travels in a cycle. If you know anything about chemistry, biology, about water is not created or destroyed. It just runs in a cycle. And so if there's a drought in some area, then another area, there's plenty of water. There's water somewhere, and in California specifically, there's tons and tons of water. Why were these canals, these reservoirs empty? Why were the hydrants not tested? Why was...
Okay, the theory why they let all them homes burn in Los Angeles, where all the celebrities lost their homes, that's because they want to build a 15-minute city there. I don't know if that's true, but apparently that was the motive. And that's why they're not going to be able to build back.
The brush not cut. What does that have to do with water? Okay, even if you believe the argument about the water, why was the brush not cut? That's why the insurance companies pulled out, because they warned California about all this. They know Santa Ana winds are coming. They come about every decade. They know they're coming. Why? There is no other thing that you can look at, no other reason logically that you can look at this. And you either have to say, A, these are the dumbest, most irresponsible people practically on the face of this earth, or this was an intentional limiting of resources and putting these people in a vulnerable position. There's no other way to look at it.
Well, from prophecy, I think it's going to get worse in the next by the next 2 years. And
Diane, just reading that, what about the looting that's going on in Los Angeles? I don't know if they're looting jewelry stores. Other than that, there's nowhere worth looting. A TV shop, you're going to go out of your way to cart a TV all the way back to your house that you stole and the electricity's down. I don't know what they're actually looting, but I don't think it's very profitable for them.
I know you have a kind of a commercial view of that. I've got a prophetic view, and we're kind of aligning on this timeline. I really want people to go to your website and take a look at all the water filters and the food. You've got great organic, dehydrated food, long life food that people can stock up on, have something safe. But let's go and see what President Trump has to say about this, and then we'll come back and talk about the geopolitical implications. This is Donald Trump.
Millions of gallons of water are waiting to be poured down through already the half pipes that are already built. I mean, they've been up for 40 years. And about...
Diane, do you think America can bounce back from this? They're not going to bounce back while Trump is president. Whenever he's president, it's going to be a completely divided nation. Oh, and even if someone else gets in from the Dems, it's still going to be that way. Wow.
20 years ago, they turned off...
You guys are in a tough predicament.
...the water. And it's the water that comes from the Pacific Northwest. Some of it comes out of Canada, and it flows there, and it probably has flowed there for 1 million years. And they turned it off, and they routed out to the Pacific. And in the meantime, you don't have water in the hydrants, you don't have water in the sprinkler system.
Yes.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And everyone's trying to figure out, why aren't they turning it back? They say it's the Delta smelt, it's a fish, but I find that hard to believe. But we'll figure it out. And without doing that, you're going to continue to have problems.
If President Trump, who lives in Mar-a-Lago on the opposite end, can understand what's going on in the Pacific Northwest, surely these Democrats that have a total grip, right? They have a total grip on Washington, Oregon, California, some of the most beautiful places on earth that I've been to. I just skied Washington. Like, they should lack nothing. They should lack nothing.
No.
And yet the Bible predicts in the richest country in the world, we're about to head into a famine of unimaginable proportion. And it's playing out right now. Like people are asleep if you don't realize all of these things have been prepped 20 years ago. And one of the hardest jobs from
Diane, tribulation can't be far off. Like tribulation is not going to be 3 years off. It's going to be weeks, months, or it's already here. How are the two witnesses going to show up? Are they just going to drop out of the sky fully formed and incarnate? Or were they born and learning their role? But they're due to show up any day, really.
me, okay, Daniel? And we're speaking to Daniel Brigman of Numana, expert on, I think, food and food supply, and giving us a perspective about this and trying to help prepare you.
And Diane, I'm just going to say it, the days are shorter. We're in the middle of winter, and usually it goes dark and the street lights come on about 5:30, but it's getting completely dark by about 5:10 now. And I keep I keep an eye on that sort of thing. I don't know why, but I do.
I say this, one of the hardest things about my job is I have to try to guess and put myself in the shoes of evil people. Absolutely, it seems absolutely irrational what they're trying to do with the Great Reset.
Diane, I'm going to do that because I told you earlier, Gabe said that the shelves at the shopping centre aren't as full as they usually are. And she even said, I don't know what's going on. So, yeah, I will get that.
Why are they going through with Ukraine like they just don't want the war to stop? I understand that war is big business and you can sell weapons, and I understand that, but the end game is you destroy Ukraine and it's the breadbasket of Europe. It's supplying fertilizer for the rest of the world. You're going to destroy your own people. Can you understand? Can you give us a perspective? Like, what is their goal? You're rational. Why would you do that?
Well, 10 years ago, you wouldn't if you're rational. The answer is you wouldn't. I mean, that's why people have for decades had such a hard time understanding this. Even 20 years ago when they started limiting the water in California, this is literally some of the richest farmland in the world that was ruined by these policies in California. It doesn't make any sense.
Didn't Bill Gates and China buy up a lot of farmland in America? I'm pretty sure they did.
Because people can't wrap their mind around it. It doesn't, it's only the last few years that we started to understand World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, the Great Reset, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, Agenda 2045. They started to see that evil conspiring men in places had different agendas, and especially Christians, as they saw the biblical prophecy in it, they started to put two and two together, and then the whole thing started to make sense that there's evil in high places that want to create these things. I'm going to give you. Let me step back and so people understand this. Okay, people can understand eggs. One of the things, and this was a few years ago when COVID first started, I said,
Diane, in World War II, our port city of Darwin got bombed by the Japanese. But now the port of Darwin is literally owned by the Chinese. Our left-leaning government sold it to them about 10 years ago. So they own a major port in Australia. And we're trying to buy it back, but you know what China's like.
An egg will cost $1 a piece. A dozen eggs will cost $12. You'll hit $1 a piece. And literally, people like, okay, whatever. I said, no, it will. And it's not that I'm making prophecy, really. I'm just putting the information I have together. And so now you're seeing eggs are going up again, and they're going to hit, I think in some parts of America, they already are close to $1 again. But you're going to see it go over that. Not because I'm being prophetic, it's because I just can put two and two together. I'm at a different.
And Diane, remember you posted all them chicken farms getting destroyed because of viruses and that? You posted that a number of times, something similar every time. That's why the eggs are going to be dear.
I have a different point of view than most of you. So when you see these things and you're trying to make sense of these policies in California or the war in Ukraine, you see it like the tip of the iceberg, like when you go to the grocery store. I can, fortunately or unfortunately, I get to see underneath the water a little bit in our business, the wholesale level of this, the supply chain, the flow of commerce. I can understand that significantly better than the average person. So the eggs, over the last COVID few years, the supply chain was very thick. It was like a rubber band. It could stretch or contract, whatever you needed. It had room to grow, room for error. So COVID erased that. And when you went to the grocery store, you can understand this, the result of this. You saw that there wasn't meat available, or they'd say, you know, you can buy 1 pack of meat and then next Thursday there'll be another ship. Toilet paper, paper products were limited. Why? You're seeing the tip of the iceberg, the end of the supply chain. That's because this whole network, this vast network, and the great economic engine of the American economy.
Yeah, but why the toilet paper? Why did the world go nuts over toilet paper a couple of years ago?
Had been broken. And it's been pieced together with spit and tape, as they say. And now we have, you know, a reasonable amount of things again. The price is going up. And you say, well, Kamala Harris's big thing was, well, these greedy corporations are gouging. But nothing could be further from the truth. For things to even operate, you have to charge more because the gaps are all gone. When you have a supply chain and everything works and there's a road that's already been built, well, once that road is gone, how do you replace the road again? Well, it costs. And say a lot of people went out of business. So now your suppliers, specifically with
Diane, are your ports still empty? Have the Chinese come back to your ports yet? That port in New York, I'm not sure what it's called, it had no ships in it.
the eggs, say, you know, XYZ farm is where you got most of the eggs on this certain trail. Well, now XYZ just killed millions of their birds and they can't fill the supply. Well, ABC farm over here, they may have some eggs, may or may not, but they're not hooked up into the supply chain and they're not ready to fulfill the distribution of this. This is so much bigger, and there's such an upheaval and conflict on the. You're seeing surface things like the war in Ukraine, like, you know.
Are they in California, Di? Are the ships in California?
The water and the fire. Underneath, this is so dramatic. And Pastor, you've talked about from a prophetic point of view. I'm just talking about it more of just a secular point of view. This is so dramatic.
So even if it stopped right now, the Ukraine war, there's still no wheat to sell to the rest of Europe because Ukrainians have been busy creating more. So there's still going to be a famine in Europe no matter what, is my point.
What's going on and the vulnerabilities and the competing interests and the food insecurities that we have, it's hard to fathom it and hard to describe, especially in a country that's been so blessed. And so these things have been so available. It's time to, take some steps and take heed of this and listen to Pastor. I mean, this is serious, ladies and gentlemen. This is serious. We're in jeopardy.
Yep.
Oh, if you had the ear of the president, okay, let's say that somebody was advising the president and they're watching us, what would you say?
He would say, get rid of Paula White. That's what he would say.
Like top 3 things.
The first thing I would tell President Trump, and there's been many times in our country's history this has happened, especially during the Revolutionary War, especially during the war between the states when Lincoln was president. The first thing I would tell him is we need a day of prayer and fasting for this whole nation. And we need to pray for peace. We need to pray for stability. We need to pray for unity, that our republic, the great Christian principles of that's what they are.
Yeah.
I know many people don't want to admit that, but they are. Why is our Constitution so great? It's because it has very...
Isn't it funny how the Christian nations, their flags are all red, white, and blue? Well, not all of them, but 90% of them. And with the Middle East, they're red, white, black, and green, the colours of the 4 horsemen. Isn't that amazing that we just happen to be red, white, and blue, and the enemy just happens to be the 4 horsemen colours?
Biblical ethics to it, very biblical doctrines rooted in it. That's why it's lasted so long. and that's why we've been so blessed. We need a day of prayer and fasting. Number two, Elon Musk has shaken the world. What he has done is so vital to truth, to uprightness, to all these things. It must continue. And I would encourage the president, I think they're already on this, give back some of the money to the American people. It will stop the opposition. It will stop the criticism of what they're doing, and it will allow us to move forward and accelerate in such a positive thing.
Yeah, I want to confirm something that, Daniel, you just said, that first of all, a call for prayer from the leader of the nation is honored by God. And I want to tell you that every policy that we can come up with, it's already there in the Bible. It's already there in some history somewhere, some country. And it happened while I was living in Australia and pastoring, that they had this, Australia is a little island and it's mostly desert. And we had a long drought, like a multi-year drought. And so the globalists used that to create a desalination plant, which never was used. Like, it's never been turned on. It's terrible. They wasted $1 billion, which by American scale is probably nothing. But for us, as a smaller island nation, it was a big deal. But they pushed through this desalination plant, and they were saying that we're going to run out of water. We're not going to have any more. And so we need to.
I remember that in the mid-2000s, this climate change scientist, Tim Flannery, kept screaming how the dams are all going to be empty. So they built a desalination plant, and it cost $1 billion, and the dams are all chock-a-block with water. It's such a fraud.
Fund all this green agenda. Finally, one of the conservative prime ministers of Australia got up and just said, you know what, I think we don't have anything else that we can do. But pray. Would everybody pray? And they're not even overtly Christian. Of course, it's a Christian country. You got the cross on the flag. It's majority Christian. So it's understood, wink, wink, that Christians and the church needs to pray. Well, guess what? It was within hours of the Prime Minister of Australia saying that suddenly it rained. And the drought stopped, and the drought never came back. From that time all the way to the time that I came to the United States, it just never stopped. So we don't have a drought. There's no climate change. There's just a curse on wicked governments and wicked people. And like you say, water is not created. So water that's dry, if it's dry in one place, it's there in abundance somewhere else. So it's being recycled. And God says very specifically in Leviticus and Deuteronomy that if a nation continuously walks after their own lust and sin, that God, one of the punishments would be that he would withhold the rain. Really, it's the whole earth, it's the sky that's withholding the rain.
And also he says he'll make a nation of vagabonds from these guys. And look at all the homeless you have in America, guys.
And he just warns us about that. So what can the world do? What about Ukraine and Russia? Okay, let's say that we have some Europeans living there. They've got a two-pronged problem. They got Ukraine and Russia, which is going to cause a famine in Europe if they don't watch out. Then they've got the crazy immigration that is totally engineered, and that's prophesied in the Bible, in the book of Daniel, that the iron and the clay of the revived European empire, revived Roman Empire, they're not going to mix properly. They're not going to adhere to one another. And so you see the clash of two totally different cultures coming in right now. Plus they got, so with that crime, with that rape, with that, they now have mega mosques. I heard that. We have mega churches in America. They got mega mosques over in Europe. But the best thing that Trump can...
I never knew they had mega mosques. I never knew that. Wow.
Do would be to end the Ukraine war. I think that would help secure the food supply. But is there anything else that they should be looking at for our European friends?
Let's say the next 2 years, because I think Trump has about 2 years and that's why he's moving so quickly.
I agree with that.
Yes,
that's what we got.
He has about 2 years to really reverse this thing. And even if things go perfectly, as far as turning this big ship around, the upheaval and the conflicts that we're going to see are going to create so many conflict points that we're going to be vulnerable. We are vulnerable, and we need to insulate ourselves from this. So I'm obviously, the man or company, we want you to be prepared. So if you're in Europe, especially if you're in the United States, especially you have the ability, you need to think about, okay, if I couldn't leave my house for 2 weeks, what would I do? And then if I couldn't leave my house for a month and then 3 months, that's not just my opinion. That's even ready.gov. The government is advising, a 90-day plan up to 6 months to be self-sufficient. So think about, long-term store food. Think about when you go to the grocery store. Think about a plan with your friends, family, those kind of things. It's hard to predict. We are living in such uncertain times, such prophecy times. One of the things in the Bible I always remember, they shall say peace, peace, but there shall be no peace. And we need to pray for peace. We need to act for peace. We need to ask for forgiveness. We need a day of prayer.
Okay, again, for those who take this to heart, don't despair. There are people like Daniel Brigman and others who are supplying good quality Christian long-term, long-life food, and we have supplies of that. The trouble is, if you have supply and your neighbors don't have supply, I wonder how many guns and bullets you're going to need to keep with you, because when people are hungry, how much can you share? If you've got children, grandchildren, what do you do?
Well, that's everybody. You can only do what you can do. I don't want anybody to listen to this and I want you to be full of hope. So our message, our company is one that brings hope, not like, oh, what am I going to do? Oh, I can't work. Start with yourself. Start with your family. Do you have extended family? Do you have grandchildren? Do you have brothers, sisters near? All these things. Work together. Get friends that are like-minded. You can do this, and you can be resilient. We've heard that word so much by liberal politicians. We want resilient. Well, this is real resiliency, that we have faith in God, but we're also resilient in the way we live our lives, and we have a preparedness products and food so that we can be resilient. You can do this. Please check out the website, Nemana.com/Pastor Steve. You get an automatic discount, or put Pastor Steve at checkout, and you can get a great discount. We got some new products: water, 1 liter bottles of water that's purified, no bacteria. We got some double packages where the water with the food, powdered milk. We have some go bags that are organic cotton sacks. So even if you have the big buckets, you have these go bags if you need to go. You've seen in North Carolina, parts of California, that's what you would have needed, especially the water and the go bags. So check it out. You get a great discount. And, if you don't buy from us, buy from somebody, or make a plan, or just ask yourself these questions. And what will I do? And then you'll be inspired. God will move you with what you need to do for your family. But even if it's not this total disaster like you think right around the corner, there's 2 ways you cannot have food. 1, there's not food available. 2, you can't afford the food. And I promise you, the inflation that we've seen, no matter how hard Trump pushes, you're going to see higher prices before you see less higher prices. You just will, because it's baked into the cake. It just will. And that's assuming everything goes smooth, ladies and gentlemen.
A lot of people in the know are saying that it's too far gone, too corrupt. And we don't put that message out. We always say there's hope. There's always going to be pockets of refuge and safety. And I believe the answer to it is not, I was hinting, not more guns and bullets necessarily. The answer is you got to be in a community. You've got to trust your neighbor. And hopefully you live with a bunch of Christians that serve God and believe the same things you do. That's the safety right there. That's the safety, to have a community, which is what God said from the beginning, right? That's called the local church, putting people together. Without that, I just think no matter how much you stock up, no matter how many bullets you have, if you've got a southern invasion that hasn't been reversed, things descend very quickly when people are hungry. Now, I want to pick your brain. What do you think about if some of the people, and I hear this, one of the guys on the YouTube world is the nomad capitalist. He's left America. He's gotten many other citizenships. He's given up his American citizenship. It's very popular on YouTube. and he's been saying there's no hope. You're not going to save America. Even with Trump for 4 years, it's not going to happen. Now, I'm not that pessimistic, but what do you think? Have you, in your knowledge of sourcing food and looking at the world supply of water, have you thought about any other place that could be a Goshen, could be a safe refuge if we just needed to get away from utter breakdown of society? Anything come to mind to you?
Well, first of all, about the United States. The United States has such a divine history that God's not going to abandon. It may chastise the United States. It's not going to abandon the United States. That's my personal feeling. And America is so big that there are places that I think, like you said, they're going to be refuge. If you're talking about outside the United States, something I heard recently that really made me take attention to was El Salvador. Did you know that El Salvador, before they're all, like their cabinet meetings, they pray and ask God to guide them and help do what's best for the people?
Yeah, well, they did that during the criminal gangs. When the criminal gangs were murdering people randomly, they did that. I'm not sure if they're still doing it, because I asked one of the family members to confirm some stories, and she wouldn't confirm it about faith, obviously. But yes, the church there is much more cohesive, much more unified. They pray together. They have a national prayer where they go through all 14 provinces or states. I saw that. Those are very good signs for a Goshen. But what I also saw was I looked around and I said, okay, well, could this help? Because not everybody can move, but let's say they take that nomad capitalist viewpoint. I don't want people just to believe him because he has no Christian input. He doesn't, he has no prophetic perspective. So he's telling people to go to Muslim countries, and some may be safe, but he's not considering the persecution that is coming and other factors that the Bible tells us. So I went around, I looked by the mountains and the lakes and the city, and I compared the prices in the short time that I had, and I gathered information. And the thing is just everything went up in price so fast after peace came that basically if you can afford Florida, you can afford El Salvador because it's the same price. If you're looking at 3-bedroom, it's the same price here as there. If it's 4-bedroom, same price here as there. You're looking at 4-bedroom with any view, it's over $1 million US.
Wow.
So that's the problem, is when things are in turmoil,
hey, Shawnee, good to see
and
you.
nobody's looking, that's the best time to buy. And when the news is saturated with Bukele and how he prays before a cabinet meeting, then it's almost out of reach already for people. It's still a nice country, it's still a nice country. They have Bitcoin as legal tender, lots of good things about it. But yeah, I'm not sure that people can just up and leave and afford it.
Now, here's one thing I will about nomad capitalists. He encourages getting citizenship to different countries or passports from different countries. During World War II, even if you were Jewish in Germany, if you had a passport to another country, you could get out.
That's right.
And so having that flexibility is very powerful.
But I also think that we get into this area that Israel got into where we think we're too big to fail. That God will never judge us. The temple will never be destroyed. And I find a lot of parallels between Israel and their disobedience in America. And I think we've done a worse job than what Israel has. And maybe we've had more missionaries that go out and more blessings that we've sown, that we've lasted this long. But if this was Israel, the hammer of judgment would have come, and we can cry the temple, the Washington, D.C., all we want. But God has shown us in the Bible that, there are times when you don't fight. All the major prophets had to say an unpopular thing, that you can't fight this. Babylon's here. You're going to be destroyed, and all you can do is get deported by God's will. Get deported. I mean, that's unimaginable for Americans. Unimaginable. There are some dystopian movies that talk about how Americans will end up becoming the refugees of the world. And I look at that scenario. I'm not trying to scare people, but I think from God's perspective, right? What would that be like for him? Well, that would be fantastic, because all the Christians who have been sitting on the gospel, on the wealth, the knowledge of the Son of God, would finally get pushed out, like in Acts chapter 8 and 11. Those guys also wouldn't go. And those guys thought, Jerusalem, we're the center of the world. How can we go wrong? And it happened. And God said, I don't really care about your comfort. I don't care about your economy. I want you to go out and tell other people about my son. And if it takes persecution, I will allow it. That's probably the harshest message I have, is not to say that America's doomed, but that because we have such a great mandate, and the mandate on Israel and the mandate in America is very similar. They thought they're blessed for themselves, and that was their destruction. If Americans continue to think that our blessing is for ourselves, and we can't be bothered to go out and spread the gospel even once or twice a year, when 90% of the world don't have the blessings of Christianity the way we have, and I think from God's perspective, would he care if he has to deport some Christians? Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he would say, get out there. But the concern for me is, as the nomad capitalist said, is you go where you're treated best, and you should have some second, third passports if you can get them as an option, because when the persecution arises, now this is the black horse, then the green horse is so bad. The problem with America is, the benefit with America is it's so big. And it's so big that we think we're too big to fail. What the Bible prophecy says, and what the prophets have been saying for years now, is that there's some technology coming that you can't hide from. And we couldn't imagine, well, what was that technology? And now we can see, you know what? They're developing drones. And it doesn't matter which mountain, which place you go to, as long as they've got all that low orbiting satellite covering the Earth and you're plugged in, and most Americans are going to get plugged into this system, then you're going to be searchable. And the only truly off-grid person I have ever found, and maybe I'm limited in my knowledge, but I do pay attention, is one guy that's linked to our ministry, but he's in Argentina and he's off-grid. He's gone. You can't find him. And that's an interesting way to live. In Argentina, I went down there looking for, is this a Goshen? And you can't even walk out at night in certain parks. And this is with Milei as the president. They still have high crime in Latin America. They still have poverty. They still have people all over the street sleeping on mattresses on the street. They're not even sleeping, like that's where they live, in the mattresses. And when I was in Buenos Aires, if you go into that, that little foyer that the bank always keeps open with the teller machine, not the teller machines, the ATM machines, even when the banks are closed, there must have been 6 homeless people, like yakking away and chatting and fellowshipping with each other there. And I thought, if I'm going to pull out a few $100s, I'm not sure that I feel safe that I'm going to come out of there with all of my money, So,
Shawnee, it's okay my end as far as I'm aware.
I am looking all the time, and I think it's very interesting what you said about Iceland. Iceland is, you'd die if you didn't have a home and that was heated. But the amazing thing about Iceland is it's free energy. It's free energy. So the geothermal energy brings not only hot water, it brings fresh water, and some of the freshest water in the world. All the food has to be grown in greenhouses. But if you can afford to live in Iceland, I think it'd be a Goshen, because who's going to attack it? It's just so far away from most people's minds. Europe's going to get attacked. The Middle East is going to get attacked. And I think by Bible prophecy, maybe very soon we're going to see pockets of unrest, and maybe the deep state is going to instigate a civil war. Something's going to happen where people are going to need what you are talking about, food for a few months. Me, people might think I have a little bit of a bias, but I think Thailand is a superb candidate for a Goshen. And I want people to seriously think about that and come with me to Thailand at the end of this year. Just have a look. Have a look.
The problem is you can't buy land in Thailand unless you're Taiwanese, whatever they're called.
You feel? Would you get treated well? It's not abandoning.
I learned that because my cousin's husband ran away to Thailand with one of them lady boys and bought a house and got ripped off.
America's the greatest nation on earth, the most Christian, but God wants us to get out there. And maybe part of the solution is get the Christians out there, get the Christians carrying the gospel. And then God says, you know what, maybe that delays the judgment, because all I want out of Israel is for them to take the light of the Torah to the world, and they wouldn't do it. And now America, forget about the big churches. I feel like the big churches aren't even reachable anymore. You can't tell them anything that's prophetic or new or what they're not used to or what might threaten their tithes and offerings. You can't get, but you can get to the medium-sized churches, you can get to the little churches, and you can help them mobilize. If we mobilize in the next 2 years and spark a global revival for Jesus, I think that's the best safety we're going to get for this nation.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love it. I love the idea. The power of having like-minded people around you is cannot be underestimated. And it magnifies your faith, just like a church. If you got a good, close-knit church, it magnifies your faith, it magnifies your effectiveness. And during the times of these distress, it's going to support you. And so whether that's in Thailand or whether that's in, no matter where it is, you got like-minded people to believe in God, to have some of these knowledge and willing to work together. You have safety there. That's what I feel.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of our online church is we have a network of these like-minded, prophecy-believing Christians all over the world. You can't go to any city. I can't go to any city where we don't find people who've been watching us, a lot of them for 10 years. But why is God doing that? And why did God connect us with you, Daniel? I think all of this is the kind of resource that we can instantly pull together. Just like Trump can pull Elon Musk like that. What about the church? Right? We should have a think tank. We should have a spiritual tank that we can instantly come up with a solution, but we can't do it for everybody. So it's the people that are in here together. We know they're committed Christians. We know they're sincere. We know they have something to contribute. That's going to be the safety in the end time.
Absolutely. It's very important what you're doing. And everybody who listens to you, I hope I've gotten to know Pastor Steve pretty good over the past, I don't know how many, 3/4 of a year or so, however long it's been. But I think that you're fortunate to have some leader like him and the information that he brings you. It's great. It's great to be associated with you, Pastor, and on your show.
Same here. Same here. I hope we get into either the Jim Baker show again together, or we'll meet up towards your way. But I appreciate your perspective. I appreciate what you have to offer. Please, again, all the audience, if you've never gone to seeNewManna.com, I know there are lots of people doing this, but this is a Christian supplier, very knowledgeable, been doing this for at least a decade. And Daniel's offering you a discount using Pastor Steve as a promo code. So that's just a great deal. It's a win-win for everybody, for the body of Christ. You don't have to go nuts. You don't have to build a bunker, but think about preparing. Please prep. We give these warnings out because we care about you. And if anybody doesn't know Jesus Christ and you feel scared about all of this, you don't have to be scared. We're not trying to scare you.
That was interesting. Where's the other guy? Oh, hang on, didn't load.
In business,
Oh man, hang on, guys. Okay. The guy on one of the shows in there. '90s of a man of God who went up. All right, guys, things are spiraling out of control in Los Angeles, California. We're seeing these continual violent protests, and this could just be the beginning. We're going to talk about an event coming up in just a few days that we really need to be paying attention to on June 14th. Again, this could be a drop in the bucket compared to what could be taking place. Everyone's talking about June the 14th for a false flag. I haven't really looked into it yet. but there's a bit of traffic out there about it.
nationwide. So we're going to cover all this. We got some videos that we're going to watch. We're going to give you some insight into this, and we're going to get you up to par on what's going on in the United States of America. Let's go.
The following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
All right, what's going on, guys? It is Tuesday morning. By the time this airs tonight at 8 o'clock, it will be Tuesday evening. So nevertheless, it's Tuesday, June the 10th. We want to welcome you to this program. We've got a lot to cover today. We're going to get right into everybody wants to talk about this. Is the hot button. So we're going to discuss this today, and we're talking about the LA civil unrest. Right now, this is in Los Angeles, but I venture to say that this is going to spread outside of the United States and probably hit other major cities. So you need to be aware of this, and you need to be aware of what's going on. So we've got some videos that we're going to share with you in this segment. We'll do some.
Is this movement going to find track though? That's the interesting thing.
Reaction videos, do some commentary. I'm going to show you an old video from the 1990s of a man of God who went on to be with the Lord in 2011. I'm going to show you a word that he gave, that something the Lord showed him. And many of us have speculated what this could be. And we thought that certain situations that transpired over the past 10, 20 years, maybe this will be it, and it didn't. It didn't come to fruition, and that wasn't the fulfillment of that. So here yet again, this raises yet another concern that we could be on the precipice of seeing exactly what this man of God saw. Now, before we get started on all this today and what we're going to cover, again, help us out. Hit that like button. That's going to help us get out there, get eyes on our program on YouTube and Rumble. And if you're listening by Apple or by Spotify, you can help us out as well. All you got to do is give us a good review right there on Apple or on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. We would appreciate that. And we want to remind you, we do have a free app, and it is available on Apple and Android devices.
So unlike Paul Begley, he just never stops bludgeoning for cash.
You can go to your store, whatever that looks like for you. Download it today. Be sure to hit yes to push notifications, and that's going to get you notified of every headline, every podcast, breaking news, prophecy update. Everything's going to be right at your fingertips. All right, so let's get right into this, guys. Instead of reading a lot of this stuff, I thought it'd be a little bit easier to pull up. We're going to pull up a video. This is from Fox News.
Now with the very latest on those anti-ICE protests. Hi, Brooke. Hey guys, it was the fourth straight day of anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles as demonstrators are protesting against the Trump administration's immigration raids throughout the city. So at least 53 people have been arrested as violent protesters face off against police with flashbangs and rubber bullets flying. President Trump authorized an additional 2,000 National Guard members to help respond to the protests.
Okay, so we have 2,000 National Guard troops, and we have at least 700 Marines that all have been dispatched to Los Angeles, California.
California Governor Gavin Newsom says the move only creates more tension and unrest. The administration also deploying 700 active duty Marines because of the
Geez, I hope Trump arrests that Newman. He's such a smug looking bugger, isn't he?
increased threats against federal buildings. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth confirming the deployment, saying, quote, "We have an obligation to defend federal law enforcement officers, even if Gavin Newsom will not." Newsom responding, saying the Secretary of Defense is illegally deploying them onto American streets so Trump can have a talking point at his parade this weekend. "We will sue to stop this." California has already confirmed it will sue Trump over his decision to activate the National Guard. Trump and Newsom went back and forth all day long.
Here we go again. Here we are as American citizens, if you're watching this outside of America, this is happening on our soil, so this is why we're talking about this. But here we go. We're stuck in the middle of a circus. This is a political circus, left versus right, or at least that's what they want you to believe. When we know, come on guys, wake up. These are a lot, I'd say the vast majority of these people, they just showed up overnight. These are paid actors, paid demonstrators. They are being, and I'm going to show you an article in just a moment.
I saw footage of a truck pulling up to the Chaos dudes, and they were giving them expensive face masks, chemical protection face masks. There's footage of it.
They're being supplied.
So there could be some bio weapon coming up.
Weapons. They're being supplied tools. They're being supplied materials. They're being supplied these flags that they can fly around. They're being supplied banners. They're being supplied all kinds of things. And this is just the beginning. We haven't even got to June 14th yet. In 4 days, this circus is going to go to a whole other level. And let's go to this video and I'll talk a little bit more about this.
The president even saying he would support arresting the California governor over obstructing ICE operations. Listen.
Gavin Newsom he's daring Tom Homey to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. Who's done a terrible job. Look. I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows.
Doesn't even sound like Trump.
In the meantime, Attorney General Pam Bondi confirming the suspect accused of throwing rocks at a federal officer has been identified. Bondi says he is now on the most wanted list and is considered a fugitive.
Good.
That guy has just been identified, and they are doing a search warrant on his house as we speak. So you can run, you can't hide. We are coming after you federally. If you assault a police officer, if you rob a store, if you loot,
Diane, do you remember you posted that thing Donald Trump Jr. said? He said the tariffs are only the start. We're going to do much, much worse things than that. Was it you who sent that? I literally saw that. It was deleted like 20 minutes later, apparently. But that was Donald Trump Jr. saying that.
You spit on a police officer, we're coming after you.
I mean, I agree with that. Spit on a copper, arrest them. I agree with that.
This is coming from the same individual that told us that all of these classified secrets were going to be made public and come to light. Where's that at? Again, y'all can believe what you want. I'm telling you, this is theatrics at its greatest level. It's unbelievable. These people have lost all credibility with me. Let me pull this back. I'll go back to the video because I know some of y'all are like, what are you talking about? Well, let me elaborate a little bit more. See, this system wants you to believe that it's good versus evil, light versus darkness, left versus right. So let's play their stupid game for a minute, okay? Let's play their game. And
there's not many Christians that know that we're getting played on both sides.
Blame the left. In the last 4 years of the Biden administration, we'll just go with this. We'll go with this script. The Biden administration allowed the floodgates to open, and all these illegals, Chinese immigrants, illegals flooding in. We're talking about millions, unregistered immigrants. We don't know where they are. We don't know where they've been. And now all of a sudden we couldn't find them, but now they've exploded and propped up like cockroaches in the middle of the night. Oh, well, there's thousands of them that just sprung up in Los Angeles. I heard a report say that there was over 1 million of these people, illegals, 1 million in California alone.
Wow.
Okay, so again, the right is full of fury, and they're full of anger, and they're pointing their finger at
1 million people in California are illegal immigrants. Where are they going to put them up?
Biden. They're pointing their finger at Obama. They're pointing their finger at the left because it's the left's fault. It's them. and the right is agging it on. This is all their fault. They let the borders open, and they just now. Am I saying that the borders were not open? Absolutely not. They absolutely were left wide open. These people did pour into the country. These people did come in here illegally. These people are all across the nation. I will take it even a step further and say to you that this has opened the door for sleeper cells, whether it be Iranian, whether it be Chinese, whether it be whatever you want to pick. They're here. They're on our soil. They're waiting patiently. Now, some would say, well, here they are. There's
South America emptied its jails when Biden was in power.
bringing action. Now, what if I came by and wrecked your whole hypothesis and brought this aspect out? I've told you that if this is the left wing and the right wing of the same bird, this organization, the puppet master who is pulling the strings and calling the shots of this thing, determines who and what party is going to win what election in order to carry out and further their agenda.
Welcome to Jonah. Let's go see how Jonah pot seed yogurt's made. Fresh milk goes into our special pots. Then with a little time and care, we create uniquely thick and delicious yogurt. Like our Jonah A2 protein all-natural yogurt.
At Spotlight, we thought you windows have a big idea. Save 30 to 40% off major curtains, blinds and shutters. At Spotlight, it's what you make it.
Europe River Cruising, 15 days, $4,999.
I want to do this trip, going up the rivers in Europe. I want to do this trip.
Including flights with a Holiday Max. Cruise through.
Okay, so if the last 4 years under Biden,
2 minutes,
because again, now I know all you people that think your vote matters, it didn't. It did not matter in 2020. Just saying, that's all I'm going to say about that. And who won 2020 was who they handpicked and who they...
Shawnee, that's what I mean. This guy is spot on. And like I said, there's not many Christians that are aware it's two sides of the one bird, or two wings to the one bird. He's hit it on the head.
He decided who was going to win to carry out an agenda. And that was to open the floodgates and get all the players ready and get all the actors in position. Meanwhile, you have people like George Soros, who has endless amounts of money, who's able to funnel money out and pay for these people and pay for their supplies, pay for them to be transported there and shipped there, and travel expenses and pay for everything else. Go here, go there, and strategically put them in cities that cause why? To cause disruption, to cause disorder. Why? Why would they do that? So watch this. So they knew this, and then that
and they've been dropping off those brick pallets. Do you remember with the Black Lives Matter riots, they had pallets of bricks in the streets? They're doing the same with LA now.
That's why this last term, Trump got put back in, because it would take a Donald Trump and his administration to fully engage and fully enact a police state in the United States of America. I'm talking about a militarized police state, where we're talking about Marines and soldiers, and even we could go as far as, and I wouldn't take it a past if we don't see, if this thing continues to spiral out of control, which is what they want, and we could see full martial law in America.
Mm-hmm.
And again, now why? Now you say, well, hold on now, Brother Ricky. Why would they want to do this? Because again, guys, you've got to remember, in order to bring about a totalitarianism regime, there's steps to this. You're just not going to flip a switch overnight, and we're in a beast system that's in complete control. It's a totalitarianism state, a police state, a militarized state. There's control coming in, control going out. They've got control over the monetary system. They got this. There's a reset. Hello, the Great Reset. You're not going to flip a switch overnight. No American is going to tolerate that. But if we can allow, if scenarios can take place that will convince Americans that their safety is priority, whether that be their physical safety, whether that be their monetary safety, their identity, the safety of their identity, and we're talking about everything from cyber attacks to these unrest, these riots, then I'm telling you, a people that is fearful and a people that is terrified will lay down their arms. They will lay down their security. They will lay down everything in the name of peace and safety. And I believe this is what's going on.
Diane, I wonder what they're going to strike Iran with. Surely it's not a nuke.
Right now, I believe that this is all planned. It's orchestrated on so many levels. And again, if this is in the Lord's will, which so far God has permitted it and allowed it, then we're just going to keep advancing.
Yeah, I was never here. I just mentioned that the bricks on the pallets, they're doing that again, which means it's a completely organized riot or protest.
And you keep moving forward.
Molly, I'm not picking you up every 5 minutes.
Prophetically speaking, we have to get to the beast system of Revelation 13. All right, let's go back. Let's go back to this video. Let's see how it's playing out. Let's see what we're being told here. And again, that's why I call this is Pam Bondi. Lost all credibility with me. These people are laughable. No credibility at all. You and I, we've talked about this, guys. They said that all this stuff was going to come to light, and it didn't. And it's not going to come to light. Again, these are theatrics. They're stirring you up. They're trying to get you all riled up in your emotions, and so you can cheer them on. Yay, they're for the good guys. They're gonna upseat the deep state. Really? Well, we're seeing how that's going. Let's go on.
The FBI is offering a reward of up to $50,000 for any information leading to his arrest and conviction. Guys.
All right, Brooke Singman live for us. Brooke, thank you so much. Let's bring in Los Angeles business owner and LAFD honorary fire chief Paul Scrivino. Paul, good morning to you. So how do people who aren't rioting in Los Angeles right now feel about these riots?
Good morning, Carly. Good morning, Todd. We're sick and tired of it.
I'm sure.
We have no one in charge. I would go so far as to say we have children in charge of Los Angeles right now. Look, I know you guys. I know you guys are watched by the White House. I know President Trump is watching this show right now. I want to talk to President Trump and to Pete Hegseth and to Kristi Noem and to people that were elected in November to change this. I'm telling you now, you're losing Los Angeles.
See, this is what I'm telling you. That get the people stirred up. Get the people stirred up. This is what I'm telling you. This is what they want.
The people in charge have lost all control of the emergency services here in Los Angeles. Ports, airports, nothing is protected. We really need that help to come in here. We've lost complete control. You see the
Geez, that chick covers that copper with the purse, doesn't she? I wonder if you could see it.
Pictures. We don't have to talk about the pictures. It's the people that are in charge have zero respect for taxpaying citizens anymore. They're giving it all to these paid out of state. I don't even know where these people are from. I would say 3% of them are actually illegal immigrants that are protesting.
Did you hear that? Wow.
It's got to end, and the only person who can do this is Donald Trump. The people in charge of Los Angeles.
The illegals won't show up. I know they're getting nabbed and put on the bus back to El Salvador.
Are all activists, social justice warriors out with an agenda. I believe with all the message that I was able to get out, we got the DEI fire chief fired, and I thought that was a great thing. But there's so many other people in place in the city of Los Angeles, in the city council. The city controller is a First Amendment auditor. The city controller, I believe, had one of his staff's daughters arrested. One of our council members, the one who you may have heard use the words mobilize and troops, Ulysses Hernandez. She's out of control. These are the people that are in charge right now. We have a
Paul, are you there?
I am here.
I think he just dropped out a little bit, but he was making a fiery point. Paul, do we have you back?
I'm here.
All right, please continue your point.
I was just going to say the mayor is not only an incompetent executive, but she has appointed incompetent, again, social activists, social justice warriors. I'm going to give you a quick, specific example. I advocate for the fire department and the rights of firefighters. I'm not a firefighter. I'm a firefighter feeder. And I spend a lot of time in those guys' kitchens, and I hear all their problems. I go to the fire commission. I complain for them. At the last meeting on Tuesday, Carly, the fire commissioner, Janitha Hudley-Hayes, on a hot mic, called me an idiot when I walked in her room, told me to shut up, thinking no one heard, but it was on a hot mic. I sent you the tape.
So
that's how they treat people.
Yeah, I understood your point. And I just want to ask you about any differences you've seen when it comes to the first 3 nights versus last night, because night 4 of these riots saw.
Make sure, look at these images, guys. Get these images in your mind, because when we talk about this a little bit later in this segment, I want you to remember these images right here, these fires in the streets. Keep that in mind.
For the first time, the presence of the Marines and the National Guard. Do you think that made a difference in terms of how the riots played out last night?
I was asleep, ready for this morning. So I saw National Guard troops. I saw them on the streets myself. These people don't care. The only way it's going to stop is if many troops come in, round them up, put them in the back of trucks, and bring them into a cell. We got a lot of empty jail cells here in Los Angeles. We need to put them in jail cells, as many as we possibly can. If it's thousands, it's thousands. Send them back to where they came from. Troy, St. Louis, wherever they came from. They're
Good luck with that.
not from LA. And that's how we have to get rid of this. The police here are in the 7,000s now. 7,000, Ellie.
Right, understood.
The department, who is in charge of protecting the troops, is in the 6,000s now.
Understood.
It's horrible.
Hey, Paul, we're having a little bit of trouble with your audio, so I'm going to leave it there with you. And, you know, Karen Bass held a press conference yesterday. The very last thing that she said was stop the raids, not stop the riots, stop the raids, which are seeing the arrest of criminal illegal immigrants, including one who shot and killed 2 teenagers at a graduation party. So these are the riots that are playing out right now. A lot of those rioters are carrying Mexican flags and flags of other foreign countries as they are demanding.
Yeah, like Palestinian flags.
To stay in ours. We will see how night 5 plays out tonight with the.
And again, guys, where do you even get, you going to stop?
A lot of the gays are for Palestine. What they don't know is Muslims throws gays off the roof. They kill them.
Up at a Walmart and pick up a Palestinian flag? You're going to go to Target? They got them on sale over there. Come on. Where are they getting them? Who's supplying this stuff? All right, meantime, you've got Gavin Newsom, who is, we're going to stop the Marines from deploying to LA. Now let's watch this one.
In additional National Guard members and 700 Marines to respond to the violence and anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles.
So let's get to Jonathan Hunt, who's live on the ground in LA. What's it looking like this morning, Jonathan?
Well, Ainsley, frankly, it is a lot less tense on the streets of downtown LA this morning than it was just 24 hours ago. We were standing here in front of the Metropolitan Detention Center yesterday morning talking to you guys. This entire street, they should be on the streets of LA later. We will
if you
just sit for a better
Should be used
there, the politicians
when the federal government moves in and takes
assaulting our cops, putting their old country's flag up, and causing total mayhem in a once great city. But the leaders aren't doing anything. This is what they're saying.
These are not the people that we were told were going to be detained. And it makes me feel like our city is actually a test case for what happens when the federal government moves in and takes the authority away from the state or away from local government. I don't think that our city should be used for an experiment to see what happens in the nation's second largest.
Okay, time out. Yeah. Okay, you want to talk about cities being used as an experiment? Let's talk about Maui. Let's talk about the fires in Hawaii. Let's talk about the fires in LA. Let's talk about the fires breaking out all over the place in unusual locations. But that's not an experiment. But that's totally normal, right? Where entire buildings are consumed with fire and there's a tree standing and untouched. A car sitting there melted all the way.
This guy's pretty thorough. I'm enjoying this.
Down to the rims. But a tree beside it unscathed. Leaves, branches, everything's still on it. Weird stuff. And we covered all that, these fires. That's experiments. Fires. Again, you can buy the narratives if you want. I'm not buying it anymore, guys. I'm telling you, there is a sinister agenda at hand, and they want you to believe it's good versus evil and left versus right. And you're going to have to wade through all this stuff, use your own discernment, and see what's really going on.
To city, well, maybe we can do this to other cities.
So that's not true, what she's saying. The federal officials were, because you guys didn't want to help them. They asked for the assistance of the local cops there. The politicians said no. They said, we just want to get the criminal aliens who we have final deportation orders for some, and some of them have criminal offenses. We want to go get them. When they came to the city to do their job, your protesters decided that they were going to obstruct. Now they're trying to get into the prison as well. So don't give me this, that they're trying to take over LA. You guys can have LA. But as it relates to the criminals in there that don't belong in this country, oh yes, they are going to enforce federal.
I just don't understand why they don't want help. Why wouldn't they want the National Guard there? Why wouldn't they want 700 U.S. Marines? Those police officers, last night when I was watching our coverage of it, I was like, this crowd is huge. Yeah. There aren't as many police officers as there are individuals that are rioting. And I was worried for their safety. Why wouldn't they want the help?
Because they're all part of the script. This is all theatrics and play. I'm telling you, this is all being orchestrated exactly what they want. They want you angry and fired up and ready to just go and just be enraged. That's what they want.
Right.
This is what's happening. Why?
Because they say that by putting the National Guard in there, they're making things worse. They also say they also have 35 minutes before the LAPD responded to ISIS requests for reinforcements. That's why President Trump is not taking any more risks. And that's why he went to school in Seattle and Portland and Minneapolis and Kenosha. He saw that maybe he could have been acting a little quicker and was talked out of it in his first term. Then he watched these cities burn, and Joe Biden basically say no problem about that. They basically had what's coming to them, and that was not okay. So when Trump takes over, he's going to make sure that this will not happen. And he's going to make sure that the city will not be out of control. But I think symbolically, and by the way, here's the sheriff of Los Angeles, who when he was in charge, he was actually against this kind of disorder and this looting. Listen to Sheriff Villanueva, who used to have this job in LA County.
The worst that we saw on Sunday was absolutely downplayed by the local media, by the politicians. They're all saying, oh, it's largely peaceful. No, it was largely violent. And the concentration of violent activists embedded within people that were just looked like they were trying to peacefully protest was a joke. Because that was you look at the destruction of the CHP cruisers, the shutdown of the 101 freeway. And if you look at the tagging and the broken windows throughout the downtown quarter, it's alarming. Local law enforcement, particularly the sheriff who was responsible for coordinating mutual aid among all these agencies, they were paralyzed in fear about coming to the aid of ICE agents who were under attack. And that right there is the genesis of this entire mess.
Not peaceful at all. They were throwing frozen water bottles at police last night, Molotov cocktails, baseball bats were hidden in the bushes in case they needed them. They were lobbing fireworks at the police and sticks at the police.
Yes.
No, there's more than that. Let me go to that right now. Let's go on to this next part. And look, I hope, guys, that you'll stick around. Some of y'all is going to get so mad and offended. Well, I'm unsubscribing. I'm done. You do what you got to do, guys. Because again, I was the same way. That's why I have a lot of grace towards many of you, because I'd be in the same boat. I would be just mad and enraged and pointing my finger at the left. It's you, it's Joe Biden, these liberals are destroying our country. Now, are they doing things by what we're seeing through legislation, sure, that's what we're being shown, that they are the party that's responsible for that. But again, wake up. If you believe that the right wing is your saviors and Trump is Superman in a red cape that's going to come, swoop down, and save us all from the apocalypse, then if you've been listening to our podcast and sticking with this, we've shown you that behind the scenes there is things moving, pieces that are being moved around, people, positions, that all is being set up. And it may not be in 6 months or a year from now, but where this thing is progressing is beyond what we're seeing right here. Because these people are patient and they see the next term. They'll see 3 years from now when the next election takes place. Because who are they going to put in then? Is it going to be another conservative, or is it going to be another quote unquote liberal left wing lunatic? Well, I'm going to tell you who it's going to be. Number one, it's going to be who they have handpicked and selected in their back room, smoke-filled chambers.
That's if we even get to a next election. I don't think we will. Trump said you never have to vote again, my dear Christians. We all heard him say that.
Around their little war room tables, and they've decided this is the direction they want to go, and as far as strategically going to further the agenda, which we're going to call it the beast system. We could call it other titles, but we're just going to call it what it is, and that's the advancement of the beast system. Or number one, that's they're the ones pulling the strings, and two, the ultimate individual who's controlling everything is God himself on the throne. He decides who sets up and who sets down kings. Now, I do believe that God is moved through our prayers. Come on, we're not going to forget about the gospel here. 2 Chronicles 7:14 tells us plainly that if my people that are called by my name shall humble themselves in prayer and turn from their sin and wicked ways, then shall I hear from heaven and heal their land. So God can bring a reprieve based on how the people respond. Listen, we could spend 25 minutes on that. Look at Nineveh. Look at Sodom and Gomorrah. There was a city spared called Zoar, and it was through the intercession of the remnant that was in there, that was in the cities of the plains, that it was spared. Nineveh was spared because the people heeded the word of the prophet, and they repented through sackcloth and ashes and fasting, and God relented at the destruction. So he gave them a reprieve.
They had the money.
Now,
At Valia, we know a healthy gut means a happy you. And deliciously creamy probiotic yogurt is proven to naturally boost digestion and immunity. Valia, get gut happy. Try our no added sugar probiotic yogurt.
If it matters to you, it matters to news.com.au.
This space heater is being called the Tesla of heaters. It can warm up a freezing cold room from 7 degrees.
Hundreds of years later, it was destroyed. Nineveh still ended up being destroyed because they fell back into the same iniquities and same blasphemies and transgressions that which brought the judgment of God upon Nineveh to begin with. So America could see a reprieve, and we could have been, we may have been in a reprieve for a moment, but humanity has a track record of we turn to God and there's a reprieve, and we see a revival that will take place for a time, but then the people's hearts turn cold. They begin to regress back into the very sins and iniquities that caused the disfavor of God to begin with, and then it's much worse. And then they ultimately end up being destroyed. Now, I don't know what this means for us now. It does look like things could be on a track record of beginning to spiral out of control. Let me pull this article up. I found this morning, And I was not surprised by this report. All right, look at this. LA riots take ominous new turn as mystery donor drops off wartime face shields for protesters. And there's, if you're watching,
this is one I mentioned before, guys. He's got it down pat.
This by YouTube or by Rumble. There's a truck pulled up. They have a box. There's an individual on the back of the box, and he's got boxes, and he's pulling out.
So I love yogurt, blackberry yogurt.
These face shields for protesters. There's been other reports of stocks of bricks and all kinds of things that's being shipped in there. Again, we're talking about weapons and everything. Look at this. The Los Angeles riots took an ominous turn on Monday night. And again, this was last night, as a mystery donor was seen dropping off tactical wartime face shields for protesters, and a sign that the, quote, chaos is nowhere near over. The mystery donor was caught on camera passing out gas masks and riot shields from her Ford F-150 to protesters in the streets as the National Guard was stationed nearby. So again, who, what, and where did this come from? Who sent them? Who is this? How did they get this? Where did they get this? Who's funding this? Remember all of the, I want to refresh your memory here. You do know that there was weapons that was stolen from a California military base. There was weapons, there was equipment, there was vehicles, there was a lot of things that were, I want to make sure I make this point made here. It was, quote unquote, stolen. I'm doing air quotes if you're listening. We're told that they were stolen. Were they though?
I heard Soros is behind this a bit. I don't know if it's true, but I did heard Soros behind it, and he was behind the Black Lives Matter riots, so it's feasible.
Or were they being distributed, put aside because they knew what was coming by somebody higher up? I'm just trying to give you something to think about instead of giving you the same. I don't want to be a parrot of Fox News or CNN or News Nation or MSNBC or a conservative talk radio or NPR. I don't want to do that. I don't want to parrot the left and parrot the right. I'm trying to be I'm trying to give you a whole different narrative here, something to think about here. Let's read this here. The chaos began on Friday when anti-ICE protesters seized on a handful of police raids across the city, taking to the streets to burn cars and march against what they say are unfair deportations. Now, again, I don't want to read all this down here because this just reiterates what we've already talked about. This unidentified woman passing out gas masks and riot shields to demonstrators from her Ford F-150 in the downtown streets was just steps from federal buildings as the National Guard was stationed nearby. The masks were branded, quote, bionic shield, according to Fox 11. And the mystery donor who handed out the goods from a pickup truck appeared to be traveling with a group of masked individuals. Now, Trump implemented a no mask ban, and you see how that's going. It is unclear if they are affiliated with any particular organization. Witnesses also claimed that the rioters were, quote, grafting, burning rubber, and preparing for clashes with police. And here's the boxes that was taken by the local affiliate there. All right, now that leads us to something that I believe, again, I said this could be the embers and the spark that's going to lead to something greater. Now, here's what I'm talking about. Let's talk about this right here. All right, quote, no King's protests are planned nationwide on June the 14th. That is approximately 4 days from today. So this is going to be on this weekend.
And that's the military's holiday. Are they going to fight each other? That's what it looks like it's set up for, it, doesn't it?
On Saturday, this is what we're talking about. All right, now, guys, I'm getting ready to pull up a video, and I just want to this is a trigger warning, and I just want you to let you know, I've searched for video on YouTube to show that we could discuss this with, to see if anybody else was talking about this. I couldn't find anything that I could share. This is the only video I could find, And it literally pains me to have to show this. And this is from MSNBC, Rachel Maddow. I do not support this woman. I don't advocate for her. And honestly, it makes me nauseous to even listen to her. But this is important that we stomach this through, because I want you, again, we put a Fox News clip up, right? Now we're going to show a quote unquote left-wing media organization give another angle. And what our job is to do is hear the left, hear the right, and then we got to discern here what's going on. So just again, I wanted to give you a trigger warning, because I know people don't even, just please don't waste time going in. I can't believe you played Rachel Maddow on MSNBC. This is fake news, and it's the liberal news. Yes, but we gave you Fox News, so calm down. So we're going to give you another angle, and it's not because we want to propagate left-wing propaganda. It's, I want you to hear what they are saying, okay, from the left wing. And then again, left wing, right wing, let's put it together.
Since the first year of his first term in office, he has wanted a parade, and not just a normal parade. He wants a military parade. After Trump in his first term saw a military parade in France for Bastille Day, he said he wanted to top that. He said he wanted something bigger than that, something more like the gigantic Death Star military parades held by countries like China and Russia and North Korea. Specifically, Trump wanted tanks. He wanted tanks upon tanks rolling down the boulevards of Washington, D.C. The issue with tanks, though, is that they weigh a ton. To be more exact, American tanks weigh like 30 to 70 tons, more or less, depending on the model, which is way too heavy to roll down the streets of Washington, D.C. without destroying the streets of Washington, D.C. So in his first term, Donald Trump did not get his military parade with tanks, but he did get a consolation prize. Halfway through his first term, on the 4th of July, 2019, he held what he called a salute to America in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Basically, he gave a speech, a stationary speech, and he did have tanks, but they were not tanks rolling by. They were also stationary tanks. In fact, the closest thing to a parade that day was the convoy that was required to get the tanks into position.
Humans react differently to ads. If an ad has made you react a little like this, get in touch with us at Ad Standards and we'll investigate. So now, you can look more like this again.
They say a smile lights up the room. With Invisalign, it's like flipping a switch.
Whatever you think, there's a banana to make your body sing.
Bloody eggs.
Real life insurance really helped us when Isaac's mum passed away. We received her full cover amount.
Into position because the tanks had to be carried toward the memorial on semi-trucks and then carefully rolled off the trucks onto a series of strategically placed wooden planks where they put them on little platforms so they wouldn't break anything. That was it. Tanks on semi-trucks and then on little plinths. That
Either way, Rachel, he's got a parade, you haven't.
was it. His whole first term, Trump never got the big military parade he wanted.
Okay.
Now, of course, he's trying again. The Army now says it is planning a military parade complete with more than 6,000 soldiers.
All right, guys, pay attention to this next part. I know
that says 66,000 soldiers. Add another 6 into that, and it puts a new light on it.
This is Rachel Maddow. I know you're losing your appetite. You're nauseous. I get it. But pay attention to what's being said right here. This is coming in 4 days on Saturday.
And you guessed it, tanks. It is still unclear if those tanks will be rolling or stationary or on the back of semi-trucks maybe, but the whole spectacle is set for the 250th anniversary of the founding of the U.S. Army, which also happens to be the president's own birthday, June 14th.
And there it is. Now, something else, consequently, is going to be happening on June 14th, and here it is.
If that news makes you want to be somewhere, anywhere else, take heart. Something else is happening that day. At more than 100 locations around the country thus far, I have a feeling there's going to be more than that. A coalition of groups, including Indivisible and Social Security Works and 5051, they are all organizing a nationwide day of protest for June 14th. They're calling it No Kings Day. As they put it on their website, quote, Donald Trump wants tanks in the street.
Now, again, this video that I'm showing you is a month old. This has been updated, but I want you to look at this map. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Is it possible that what we're seeing in LA is could what we see in LA spring up in all these locations?
Yeah, we saw Black Lives Matter do that, and that was their dry run
across America.
Well, look at the chaos that's going to come to America in the next month or so.
Social Security Works and 5051.
Let me go back to this.
For his birthday, a spectacle meant to look like strength. But real power isn't staged in Washington, made for TV. As they put it on their website, quote, Donald Trump wants tanks in the street and a made-for-TV display of dominance for his birthday, a spectacle meant to look like strength. But real power isn't staged in Washington. It rises up everywhere else.
Biden tried to get the military to help him at his parade, but they only offered him goats, not tanks.
All right, so I pulled this up from Newsweek because this is more updated. That was a month ago when that was announced. Let's look at the more updated version of this. The No Kings protests are a nationwide day of defiance to reject authoritarianism, according to the event's organizers. Dozens of grassroots groups are organizing a nationwide protest. Ezra Levin, co-founder of Indivisible, one of the groups, told Newsweek that the goal of the protest is to, quote, send a message that the United States has no kings amid Trump's military parade in the nation's capital, which coincides with his birthday. Quote, he is planning to roll tanks. And again, we've already read this. I don't want to recover this. This is actually to send a strong message to leaders and institutions who are considering right now whether to capitulate or whether to fight back. Look at this. Whether to capitulate or fight back, and to send a message that, what does that even mean? Does that mean, is that what's going on in LA? So are we going to see, is LA the prelude? Is it the opening trailer to things to come that we're going to see all across the United States? It's to send a message that this period we're in right now, this period of authoritarian breakthrough is temporary and democracy will reassert itself. Look at this. Again, here's one of these people. He was elected president, not king.
At Spotlight, Spot sales save 40% off Everest bedding, 50% off Cool cover sets, and VIP save 50% off winter blankets, electric blankets, and flannelette bed linen. So make it shake it and snuggle it for less. Backfire bargain guaranteed. Sale on now. At Spotlight, it's what you make it.
You just need to see some identification.
Passport, credit card, my Olo membership card, photo of me from 1993 with lasers.
There's no need to overshare personal details. Connect ID.
Tourist calling. Europe River Cruising, 15 days, $4,999, including flights with a Holiday Max.
Man,
All
that's
right,
all
so there are
that
more than 1,550 events across the country. A full map of protests can be seen here, so let's just pull it up. And again, look at this map, ladies and gentlemen. Let me give you a smaller, or here we go. Look at this.
Man.
Look at that. This is
your East Coast is in a lot of trouble. Wow.
This is all across the country. Every one of these dots, every one of these little dots here are locations where these protests are going to happen. This is unbelievable. And this is concerning because, again, I want you to step back for a second. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Left, right, liberal, conservative. We, the people the citizens, the average people that, get up every day, brush your teeth, take a shower, put on your clothes, make yourself presentable, go to work to make a living, to put food on the table and provide for your family. These kind of people. Is there anybody in there still out there like that? We're the ones that's going to suffer from this because our country is at jeopardy of being completely destroyed. And again, that's what they want. That's what the puppet masters want. Now, when I was putting this together, I thought of this word that was given in an interview in 1993. Think about that. In 1993, by Pastor David Wilkerson, beloved pastor of New York, Times Square Church.
Yet very well trusted.
I believe he was a real man of God.
Yeah,
I believe
agree.
he heard things and saw things, got words from the Lord concerning his present day of when he was alive and things that would happen in the future. One of these videos I found, I want to pull this up. I want you to hear this word. There's no video to this. This is all audio. Pay close attention to what Wilkerson saw in the future of America. Listen to this.
God has always judged societies. We're being slapped. I don't know why America doesn't wait. We're being slapped on the wrist. California is being shaken from one end to another. Earthquakes, black economic hole. We're having tornadoes. We're having hurricanes and billions of dollars. And nobody's listening. Everybody says, well, God wouldn't do that. These are love calls. These are mercy calls. Wake up before true judgment comes for having turned away from everything that is righteous and holy. I stood in this pulpit.
And he's been dead a few years. Look how worse it's got.
A few weeks ago. It took every bit of Holy Ghost courage he could give me to say what I had to say, but I have felt this for weeks. I believe that New York City is in for 30 days of chastisement, such as America's never seen any American city. I see at least 1,000 fires burning in every borough, every business that's on the brink right now, deciding whether to move out of the city, will move. There's a hemorrhage already.
Now, this was directed at New York City, but listen to this. This is incredible. Watch this. Listen.
The economic base is collapsing. We're a third world city already. I don't care what Mayor Dinkins says. It's a third world city. We have a murder every hour on the hour now. Major crime every 20 seconds. This is Murder City, and I believe that we're going to see such chaos and anarchy in New York City coming. I don't know when, but I don't think it's too far off. And I don't know what's going to set it off. There'll be no planes, trains, anything coming in this city for probably 2 weeks. And all those who have money and are able will escape. In New York City,
they've already shut the airport down. Wow, this is pretty prophetic, isn't it?
Town city, because of its absolute rebellion against God, its absolute sinfulness.
Now, some say, well, this could have been 9/11, because remember, he prophesied this in 1993. And then, what was it, 8 years later, 9/11 happened, and it shut down the...
No, that wasn't 9/11 he was talking about. That was tribulation, in my mind.
Streets, there was no planes. There was just all emergency vehicles, but it wasn't for 2 weeks span. And there wasn't fires in the street other than the towers that fell, and then the World Trade Center 7 and whatever, and what was impacted in the ground zero region of New York, in New York City. But I don't believe that's what this was. I think this is a future event that has not happened yet.
Yep.
And again, he's talking about New York City, but listen to this.
This is going to be chastised. And this is God. He could have sent hydrogen bombs from Russia before this society collapsed and wiped us off the map. But no, he gives us warnings. He slaps our wrist and said, look, I'm talking to you. And that's what AIDS is. It's a message. All of these calamities, they're messages. And God's saying, wake up.
All of these calamities is a message from God saying, wake up. I can't say it any better. I'm going to leave it there with David Wilkerson. So, and again, he saw this in New York City. This is where he was. That was his base. But he saw 1,000 fires. Now, again, when the BLM riots took place, many people thought wait a minute, this is it. This is what Wilkerson saw, but it wasn't. So I'm not saying this is, I'm just saying this is something that to my remembrance, it comes back to my remembrance, and I remember these words from this man of God. So this is something, now guys, if you missed last night, we did a live prayer session. We prayed about this situation. Okay, go back, join with us, come into agreement with prayer. But today, we just wanted you to inform you, get you up to par, get you up to date what's going on. So again, key things to look for. One is to see if this is going to spread beyond Los Angeles. Number two, be aware, be advised. This Saturday, June 14th, things could get real nasty real quick. So if you live in major cities,
okay, I stream every day, so I'll be streaming when that's happening. I'm going to change now, guys. He's over. Something new on Jonathan Cahn. He's a pretty good prophet, Jonathan Cahn. We all know him. Dark Resurrection and the End of Days, Jonathan Cahn. Prophecy Watchers. 2 days old.
Someone who at one time delivered 31 years ago, I arrived in Oklahoma City with less than $200 to my name. The late J.R. Church rescued me from a future of sleeping in my car and being homeless, and somehow remarkably saw something in me as someone who at one time delivered Twinkies for a living. And I became a multi-million-dollar land developer. I don't know how all that happened. And suddenly I was in Colorado Springs, and I found myself out of a job, bought out by my partners with a buyout agreement that they never honored.
Well, Diane, that's impressive. I saw Franklin, what was his name? I saw him at Randwick Racecourse in 1977. He had a revival there. What was his name?
And I had nowhere to go. And in most cases, that would become...
He's got a son called Franklin.
Scary, but for me, it was like, I love Bible prophecy more than I love real estate. Maybe
Billy
this
Graham.
is an opportunity for me to really do what I'm passionate.
Billy Graham, that's what I'm talking about. The seeds were sowed with Billy Graham in 1977 with me. And then I didn't become Christian until about 10 years ago.
About. And JR and Gary Stearman took me under their wing. And for the last 31 years, I have kind of learned by osmosis more about the Bible than most people could ever experience in 100 lifetimes.
Yeah.
I can remember when they both began studying the Hebrew alphabet. And I just thought these guys were just out of their mind. Who wants to learn Hebrew? Who wants to read about Hebrew?
Thanks, Shawnee,
And
Billy
they
Graham.
began making one discovery after another.
I will say this about Billy Graham. He led a lot of people to Christ because he led me to it. But he died worth $29 million, which means he was no better than Jesse Duplantis or Joel Osteen, because he did invent something that earned him $29 million. He took it off the collection plate, and there's no way around that.
People began to call them Kabbalists, all these terrible names, and they persevered, and they began to study a lot of the prophecies surrounding the Hebrew.
I read The Cross and the Switchblade in the early 80s, Di, when I first went to jail.
Alphabet, which is just the deeper you get, the more you realize that God gave Moses.
The movie they done on it, they all overacted. It was a terrible movie. That's why I've never shown it.
Hebrew. And the Hebrew alphabet is the underlying foundation of the entire scriptures. I could sit down for an hour or two, not nearly as well as Gary could, and tell you.
He was a member of the Mau Mau's, wasn't he?
Things that when you hear them, you don't even want to believe them. Well, Jonathan Cahn has taken those Old Testament prophecies, and he has, what you're going to hear tonight is going to shock a lot of people. I don't get to read a lot of books cover to cover anymore. There's just too many things to do, like getting rid of magazines. But I can tell you, I read his book cover to cover, and it really brought me back to the days of J.R. Church and Gary Stearman and studying some of these things in Hebrew that most people in the church never get to hear about, never get to experience. The whole northern area of Israel.
His gang was named after those pygmies in Africa, the Mau Maus. They're a really big warlike tribe, but I think they're not much bigger than pygmies.
The whole Gaza.
But they were fighting the British colonials back then, so they were rebels, and that's why these Wilkinson's gang probably adopted that name.
The area, the Palestinian Philistine connection. This is the core of the book. None of us will ever forget October 7th. And after you hear Jonathan's message tonight, you'll fully understand what's really happening in the Middle East, what's really happening in Israel. If you haven't picked up a copy of The Dragon's Prophecy, all I can tell you is the best book I've read in a long time.
Every time we hear something new from Jonathan Kahn, it's usually pretty well done and brilliant. Looking forward to this.
Fabulous work.
What do you want?
Jonathan, come on up. Thank you, buddy.
So he charges for his book and he copyrights his channel. He's entitled to his wages. But look what he does. He does it online for free, like he does it on YouTube for free, but he does make a book of it. I know I keep picking on Paul Begley, but look at the differences between him and Begley. Begley never stops going on about cash.
Shalom. It is great to be here. I'm always blessed to be at a prophecy conference. I flew in from Charlotte, and I think about half the people on the plane were coming here. And I said, there's like half the people. I'm on a prophecy plane coming here. And I'm thinking, but wait a minute, I hope the pilot is not coming here. I hope he's not a Christian, because if the rapture comes, we are in trouble. With a pilot, I want him to be a pagan. So, but also, I know there's a lot of talk about Nephilim, and I was asked about that. And I just want to say, I'm looking around the hotel, and some of the staff seem a little bit too big, a little too tall. I'm not judging. I'm not saying anything, but, and then just giving a heads up, the Nephilim, they don't like prophecy people because they're talking about them all the time, But, okay, are we getting ready?
Yeah.
Are we ready? All right. Before anything else, a few things. I am always blessed to be here with Prophecy Watchers. They are a wonderful ministry I've known.
2 days old, guys.
For ages, and now Mondo, but it's a wonderful ministry, and it's an honor to be here. And I have a lot to share with you, and no matter how much I share, I can only touch on what are in the book. So what they're going to do is this is to bless you, but also that you can bless other people in your life who can be changed, who can be touched, who can be saved. Many people have gotten saved through the books as well. So whether you have them or not. So let me quickly tell you what they're going to have, and then I'm going to go there. I'll meet you. I'll sign every book I can sign. So the first book is, I think you've heard of it. It's called The Harbinger. And that is the ancient mystery that holds the secret of America's future, and it is still coming true. Second one is the Book of Mysteries. And this one, the Book of Mysteries, that's not the one. Book of Mysteries, there it is. And that is going to take you on a journey to open up hundreds of mind-blowing mysteries of the Lord. And also unbelievers are getting saved through that. Third one, the next one is the paradigm. And the paradigm is an exact mystery foretelling events that are happening, exact dates, exact times, what's happening in our day, even may tell us what's going to happen in the next 4 years. The next one is the oracle. That opens up the Jubilee and mysteries. These are stunning things that the end time countdown and where we're going. The next one is the Harbinger 2, and that is the mystery is continued into our day. Where are we right now, and what is the future? The next one's called the Return of the Gods, and that is revealing the ancient spirits, gods that are in work in our nation, in our culture right now. Even if we could identify them, what we're dealing with right now, it's probably the most explosive or controversial. The next one is the Josiah Manifesto. And what if God was giving us a blueprint for the end times? and how to prevail, exactly how to prevail in what's coming. And the last one is the newest one, which just came out, and I'm going to give a taste of it. That is the Dragon's Prophecy. I'll give a little taste of it tonight. And so think of people in your life you could bless and even get saved, because what they're going to do is this.
Yeah.
This is my job. I'm not a promoter. My job is to get the word out. So what they're going to do is mostly.
Shawnee, some people have tried to call Jonathan Kahn out, but I've never seen a video debunked that he's done. He really helped me come to Jesus. He's Harbinger, along with Bill Weiss's 23 Minutes in Hell. They both brought me to Christ.
The books are hardcovers. They list like $30. They're going to be $15. But every book you get it's going to go down and down until it's going to be $10, which is less than a Big Mac meal. And you cannot save anybody with a Big Mac. So it's a steal. God says, "Thou shalt not steal." This is one steal that He wants you to do. So that'll be right outside. So take advantage of it. And if you're for Christmas, whatever, you're going to be the cheapest Christmas gifts that you can actually touch people's lives and change them. Last resource before we get going is unique. So unique it's not in any bookstore. It's almost nowhere. I bring it where I speak. I know Prophecy Watchers, we've done something with it, but it is the Dragon's Prophecy Uncensored. This is 8 one-hour DVDs where you're not just going to read about it you're going to see the mysteries unfold. And that's the book. They do have another one, but I don't think you'll see it. But it's 8 DVD albums. You're going to see it really explode before your eyes. It has uncensored content. There it is. Uncensored that I did not put in the book, that I did not put anywhere in the world, end time things I have never dealt with, that it's all in this album. And it even has a mystery that may even tell us exactly what is going to happen, dates, and all that. So it's going to be gigantically reduced. It's going to come out to about $5 a DVD. So that's the last thing. And if you want prophetic updates from the ministry, it's Hope of the World. And they'll have a little sign-up sheet there. If you put down your contacts, you will get free gifts. You'll get prophetic updates. The ministry, though, is on the web, hopeoftheworld.org. And that is about it. Okay, are we ready now?
Yeah.
Let's pray. Father, we just praise you and thank you, Lord, for this time. I thank you for my brothers and sisters who are hungry for your word, hungry for your truth. Lord, I ask that you have your way, Lord, tonight. Father, speak your will, reveal your purposes, Father. And Lord, in my weakness, be strong in your power. And I thank you, Lord, for all things in the name above every name, the name of Yeshua, Jesus,
Amen.
Our King. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, I'm going to do my best to go through this quick and give you a taste. There's so much that I can just give you a taste. This is opening up the realm of prophecy and mysteries that lie behind what is happening in the world right now.
This guy's got about 5 serious books out now. If you had to read any of them 5 on their own, you'd still come to Christ anyway. Gee, this guy's blessed.
It was a Friday night. I was at Beth Israel, which is the congregation I lead in New Jersey, and it was a night I was just led to speak about a mystery, a biblical mystery, and this mystery ordained that there would be an attack on Israel. The attack would take place in the year 2023. It would happen in the month of October. It would happen on a Saturday. It would take Israel by surprise. It would fall on a Hebrew holy day. And it would happen on the first.
Guys, this goes for an hour. I haven't got an hour left. So I'll do this tomorrow. I'll make this part of tomorrow's with Mike from around the world. They should tie in together well. So what I'll do instead is, where is it? Yeah, this is it.
Cyber criminals are continuously on the lookout for new ways to make money. Protect yourself with Trend Micro.
Talking about is not why are so few people seeing this? This is Tony. Hope you're all doing well. Obviously, the big story everyone's talking about is not exactly all it's cracked up to be. And I realized this when I saw a certain Jimmy Kimmel intro montage, and it kind of spelled out the entire thing. I'll play it in a second here, and it makes, when you start thinking about it, it starts to make a lot of sense. What's really going on with this whole thing in LA? Okay, so first, obviously, you got everybody talking about this. It's obviously a big story. Everyone's like, oh no, this is super huge, right? Amazingly, it's only within like maybe a square mile or two that this is all happening. Check this out.
You see here, we have a full house tonight, as we always do here at our studio in Hollywood, which might be surprising for those of you in other parts of the country who've been watching cable news and believe this city is some kind of totalitarian hellscape right now. It most certainly is not. In fact, let's take a look outside, because I want you to see what it's like in Hollywood right now. You won't see this elsewhere on television. Not only is it not an apocalypse, they're having a Disney Pixar movie premiere right now for Elliot.
So let me show you something, what's going on here. Obviously,
Okay, he's mocking God. Something will happen to him in the next few weeks. You watch and see.
a lot of people get offended when they see that, like, well, there is something going on, something huge going on, right? This is the entire point. It's a sort of like fake left, go right. The media is like a black belt at this stuff, and people still don't see what they're doing to them. They say it's a nothing burger while talking about it nonstop, which makes it into a something burger. They make it into something huge while saying it's not huge. And since you think they lie all the time, you automatically assume the opposite of what they're saying, right? So if you watch Jimmy Kimmel, you'll automatically assume the opposite of what he's saying, right? The same is the case with all these news organizations. They were saying it's mostly peaceful. Everyone goes, well, obviously it's not mostly peaceful, right? But then the assumption in the process is that you'll start saying, well, it must be something.
I remember they were saying Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful as well.
Huge. But in reality, it isn't something huge. It's like a 1 mile square area, maybe 2 square miles. And I'll prove it to you because some people are going to just not believe me. Okay. He showed you the outside of Hollywood, right? You go Hollywood to LA. Let's just go to Hollywood on the map. Okay. Let's see. Let's go look at Hollywood. Here you go. There's Hollywood right there. There's LA. We're talking literally 3 miles away. That's how big this is. It's so small that 2-3 miles away, you're in Hollywood and everything's fine. So why am I telling you this? Because let me show you this clip. This makes perfect sense of it as well. This was over on Joe Rogan. This was from 2 years ago. This is from Sam Tripoli on Joe Rogan talking about the, intelligence, of course, groups and what their next plan is. Check this out. This will explain everything.
We're in the Bolshevik war right now, bro. And right now what's coming up is all the pride stuff is going to be, okay, so I had this woman come on my podcast, her name's Mel K. She goes, I've been talking to some people in the intelligence, and they go, this gay pride stuff is going away. And the next thing you're going to see are immigration riots.
Who's making it happen? And why? Why are they doing it? Why are they doing it? Because they want you to think it's a big deal. They want to get you to move to a certain place. They're playing chess while everyone reporting on this is playing checkers. Even those, of course, on the rights are playing checkers for the most part. Most of them are, not all. There's some that are probably playing chess a little bit. They don't see what's obviously in front of us. They're too busy trying to get big views on their social media accounts. Oh, look what's going on in LA. Oh my God. And of course, what are they trying to do? So actually, it's a very small thing that they turn into a big story. Then they deny it. You don't believe them, so you believe the opposite of what they say. Then they're setting this up where they do it in every city, or they want to do it in every city, right? See what I'm saying? But actually, it'll end up being a nothing burger in each one of those cities. It'll probably be like 10 people, 100 people max in some of these cities, maybe 5 people in some of these little towns. Yay, got my sign. Like it's a big deal. It's nothing. It's literally nothing. But because of how social media works, because of how the media works, because these guys are black belts at it. Most people are just going to swallow this the wrong way. They're going to take it in the wrong way, just like we saw 5 years ago. Same thing. We had the protests. We had the everyone's, oh no, it's the end of the world, right? And then what happened? A lot of crap happened, right? Because people believed it. That's why I didn't want to just come on here and, you know, try to tell you, oh no, all this stuff. I want to actually make sense of this. I want to actually go somewhere with this. That was my intent when I got on YouTube, seeking truth in the midst of chaos, or trying to figure out what's going on. That was my intent getting on this YouTube a long time ago. Of course, interestingly, we had the Harris of Walmart. I talked about this in my last video. There's a new update to this whole thing. She was the one who put out the advertisement about the No Kings, which is basically this thing. So she's clearly behind it. Interestingly, this just came out today. Walmart facing furious boycotts as billionaire Harris, Christy Walton, promotes these protests. Now, of course, I pointed out also a little bit about their family back here, that Sam Walton, actually, we got an update on that as well, the tariffs in a second here. There's a brand new thing that just came out an hour ago. Where is the Sam Walton thing? Here it is. Served in the, what did we just see earlier, just a minute ago? Intelligence. She's connected to it too. I just showed you the Joe Rogan clip. I just showed you she's involved in this. I just showed you her father was part of this. He went from that to Walmart. Just like we saw with Facebook, which was created by a certain corporation who also happens to be tied to this. All these things were created by them so that they can make you think certain things, whether you think you're being tricked or not. You're playing checkers and they're playing chess, right? I'm not saying all of you. Some of you already know that this is happening, but some of you don't. This is what's going on. That's what this whole thing is. They want you to get into a certain slot.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, interestingly, I've been hammering on this whole tariff thing. She doesn't like our president. They're trying to blame the price increases in their store on tariffs. I showed you guys the 90-day pause. The tariffs were the same as before the 90-day pause. There was only a 2-3 week window where the prices would have went up for them to import stuff, because they import every year, because every year they have a Chinese New Year, which is 2-3 weeks long. They know how to avoid buying stuff for 2-3 weeks. So almost the entire thing is not true regarding Walmart raising the prices. Now we also have on top of that, our president just made a deal with China.
Celebrating a string of trade wins, the U.S. and China have established a framework for implementing the Geneva Trade Agreement, but it still needs a...
So, of course, they're already in the process of finalizing stuff. And again, you can see that Christy Walton doesn't like our president. Of course, her father was part of that one group, the not-so-intelligence. Maybe that. Well, technically, they're smart enough to trick everybody, so a lot of people fall for it. But, yeah, that's why our world's the way it is. It's because if you actually turned off all the phones and all the computers, people go back to normal. You know what I mean? Be kind of amazing, wouldn't it? Of course, that's probably not going to happen anytime soon. At least, well, hopefully it doesn't. I mean, if it does happen, then you and I are not going to have electricity, right? I would rather just get rid of the groups doing this than getting rid of all entirety and going back to the Amish, right? But, I mean, obviously, it's wise to be prepared anyways. I got this book here, The Lost Way is How Your Great-Great-Grandfather Lived Without Electricity. It's $37. Get the printed version, link in the description for that. But you ain't going to be able to buy that at Walmart after the fact either, and I don't think you want to buy it at Walmart considering all the stuff they're doing. But at any rate, so, of course, this is also what they've been using as a template in Europe, as you can see in this video here.
Riots have hit the UK again, this time in Ballymena, County Antrim, Northern Ireland, where furious locals responded to the news that 2 Romanian...
So, of course, these Romanians did some not so nice things, of course, to, a woman. I think you can guess what that might be. Yeah, so of course, their GOVs are pretty much all on board with these guys at the top who want to make it so your entire country is getting infilled with a bunch of people, of course, from other places. They don't speak per se the same language, don't think the same thing, don't respect your culture, all that kind of stuff. Although there are people, obviously, that do, that come in. My wife literally is from another country, Philippines, and she respects her country. She doesn't like the fact these people are coming in illegally either. She's like, I had to go through all these steps. I had to pay this money. I had to wait all this time. Right? Obviously, when you have mass versions like you see in Europe, it's not good. Entire point is to destroy the culture. This, I think, is the main point behind a lot of this stuff. And of course, like I said, we're going to get into a ton of stuff in this video. Got to mention food supply, 25-year shelf life. Link is in the description. 3 months worth for $4.97. You guys definitely want to get that if you have not already. Link is in the description for that. You also have, interestingly, DeSantis has made gold and silver a literal.
Okay, guys, I'm out. He's plugging his products. See you tomorrow. Mike from around the world tomorrow, and Jonathan Kahn. Looking forward to it. See you tomorrow, guys. God bless.
At Woolworths, you'll now find lower shelf prices on hundreds of products. Like this assortment of favourite family brands, now lower by a total of $11.35. Lower shelf prices for longer. It's a fresh commitment to you.
AGL Stack and Save is a smarter way to save. Stack your internet with AGL Energy and unlock guaranteed monthly savings on your internet. Switch to AGL and see how much you could save.
I got these Akasoli insoles, and what followed was an absolute fiasco. So I almost made the dumbest mistake of my life. I got these...
Currency. You might want to get yourself some gold and silver. Got some deals going on at AdMax. Go check it out. Link is in the description.